What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about Sunday Best. Ed Sullivan, the Ed Sullivan documentary. I don't know what else it's called. Sunday Best should be good enough. It's on Netflix. It has audio description done by International Digital Center, and I've seen it, and you should see it too. Maybe you're going to have to listen to the whole review to find out if this is a full recommend. It's really hard to mess up a documentary. You have to really suck at it to make a really bad, I want to give this documentary a rotten score. I find that out a lot. I've always sort of been intrigued with who's giving these documentaries the rotten score? Who are these people who have seen, what is it about some of these documentaries when they get a rotten? So, Sunday Best is going to tackle the man, the myth, the legend, Ed Sullivan. Ed Sullivan. And his sort of legendary program that ran for something like 20 plus years, from the late, it's the early 50s all the way through 1973 or something like that. He ran forever. Or was it 47 to 73? It was some ungodly amount of time. This man was on TV for a long time on Sunday nights. He was appointment television back in the day. I know it's hard to think of that now because now you have all this stuff at your fingertips and you could click away from me and go on to TikTok if you want. And then you can give up TikTok and then pop over and load something random on Peacock, and then you can dip out of that. All in the matter of 60 seconds. So, people used to have to actually sit in one place and wait for a program to start and know when it was. What time is the program at? We're going to have to explain things to kids one day. I'm going to be an old man. I'm going to be like, yes, it used to actually matter when things were on television. We had programs, and we had a must-see TV. We had TGIF. Snick. But even back before that, before there was cable, there weren't that many stations. So the market share, where they talk about these things having market shares, Ed Sullivan, when he had the Beatles, it was 75% of televisions or something like that were tuned into Ed Sullivan at that time. Something ridiculously high. The percentage of people who watched the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show is sort of an iconic moment. And, but that's not really what this is, but it's so iconic that they had to include it anyway. That's the funny thing, is that for the most part, this documentary is about how Ed Sullivan used his platform to give and help launch Black musicians. So he had all of them on his program. He was constantly pushing against this concept, this idea that Black people were not allowed to be on television, especially without being a caricature of themselves, unlike Amos and Andy, So he was featuring them way back, and there's some early writings about how he felt about things, and with his family sort of being Irish immigrants, and he remembers how they were initially treated. A lot of people forget this kind of shit. It's good to hear this stuff coming from Ed Sullivan, but there are a whole bunch of people now who forget that their people, when they first came here, were treated like shit, and they not treated the same way that they are now today. People can walk around and say, I'm Irish, and cool, you can do that now, but 100 years ago, not so much. It wasn't a thing that came out as easy, and obviously before that. So because of that, he doesn't quite feel enfranchised. Feels more disenfranchised, and notices other things too that he can't not look away from. So when he's given the opportunity to have a show, he's sort of a very accessible, regular guy. He's not, he just kind of is given this thing after doing a perfectly fine job hosting something else, and CBS is like, yeah, we're looking for somebody to host a variety program. Or so once he does this, he personally selected every single artist. He had like 10,000 artists or something like that. It was ungodly. It was just, oh my God, it's a lot of people on your show, man. Um, Over the years, and a whole bunch of them are black. He launched a whole bunch of black people, black artists, and they weren't all like singers. He had Bill Bojangles, Robinson was on his show, and also they were friends. He had there's a point in the documentary where he talks about owning these shoes that were the last shoes that he ever wore. Mr. Bojangles, the dancer, um, and most of the commentary comes from living black artists. Like Smokey Robinson comments on this a lot. So it's that they're tipping their hat to Ed Sullivan as mostly like a thank you for being the one to push back and say, no one, everybody else was saying we weren't allowed on TV. Ed Sullivan was told, that the South would turn off their televisions, and he didn't give a shit. He was just like, fine, whatever. It's my show until it's not. So, and of course, everybody turned into Ed Sullivan, which means everybody saw all of these artists throughout the course of time. And that's kind of what this is about, all the way up through like Jackson 5 and everybody, I don't know, Tina Turner was featured on here. Just a bunch of different artists are featured. But yeah, they do have to stop. It's funny because this documentary is primarily focused on Ed Sullivan featuring the black artists, but they knew they couldn't skip over the Beatles moment. So they have to fit it in here, even though that's not really the narrative. It's really hard to make a documentary about the Ed Sullivan Show and skip over that. No matter how much you want to make it about this one thing, it's like you have to mention it. Because it's like it is, even if he's remembered for this one thing, and even if all black musicians who know their history are like, oh yeah, Ed Sullivan, he did a lot. That Ed Sullivan Show was great. But the Beatles... it was just such a ridiculous moment in history for them being on the Ed Sullivan Show that it's gotta be, I think if TV historians sat down and they were like, what are like the best episodes of any TV show, the most iconic moments in television ever, I think that one in all of television, in the totality of television, is definitely in the top 100. I'm betting it's the top 50. It wouldn't surprise me if it was like top 25 or top 10 because of how often it's referenced. So, yeah, there was no way around that. They have to have that on there. But, so what did I like? I liked Sunday Best. It's not very long also. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes. It's like, so something like, it's like 80 something minutes. And so you're not going to spend that long in it. There's something that they do that I have to directly address, and it's the use of AI to generate Ed Sullivan's voice reading Ed Sullivan's writings, which I don't think they needed to do. I know that's like a gimmick that we can do now, that we're like, oh, we'll have AI. We'll just use Ed Sullivan's voice to read. Matthew Lawrence is out there going, why don't we just have Robin Williams read everything? Because he's dead. That's an easy answer. I'm glad I could answer that for him. Because he's dead. I would love to have Robin Williams still around. Unfortunately, he's not. That's how life goes. AI does not mean that we get to mimic their voice for all of eternity. So Ed Sullivan is reading a whole bunch of things here, but he's not, because it's AI using Ed Sullivan's voice. It's like if you use Meta AI, there are certain celebrity voices you can use on there. I prefer the Judi Dench one. I'm using Judi Dench. And I know that's not Judi Dench talking to me, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not her. She's not responding to me. So I think what would have been, and would have made more sense, would have been somebody who was truly invested or reflective of Ed Sullivan, doing the narration and telling us about his life instead of using the AI voice. So if I have to ding it for something, I'm going to ding it for that. I also felt like there weren't really a lot of people who commented on this. I felt like they kind of felt like Smokey was going to be able to do the heavy lifting here. I'm like, is he not that we should have more influential people here talking about. Smokey does like most of the heavy commentary. I kind of felt like, did you cast a wide enough? Did you ask enough people? And the funny thing is that they get people to say like a little bit here, like Dionne Warwick will come in here and be like, here's my 2 cents about Ed Sullivan, and like Tito Jackson. But it still feels like Smokey Robinson did most of the heavy lifting. So I don't know. I would have had like Ryan Seacrest or something like that narrate, because he's the closest thing we have to a contemporary version of Ed Sullivan. They're not the same thing, but I mean, he just is the closest thing. He's associated with music all the time and the things that he does. So, yeah, I guess if we're going to have somebody just pretend to be Ed Sullivan and read, I just didn't like the AI factor of it. That kind of took a little bit of wind out of the sails. I still would recommend the documentary, but it's just not as fervently as I would have had they gone a different route, and had they had maybe a couple more people in here commenting on the Ed Sullivan program. Did feel like it was a lot of Smokey Robinson, though. I mean, I love Smokey, but it did feel like it was a lot of Smokey Robinson giving us like history of music. And you know, some of the artists are still alive who, and definitely were when they first started shooting this. I mean, it takes a while for them to compile documentary footage. So them's my thoughts on the Sunday Best documentary on Netflix. So perfectly fine documentary. The AI took it down a notch, but it's still a fresh for me. I'm gonna give Sunday Best an 8 out of 10. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.